Thank you everyone for attending. This is going to be a wonderful webinar tonight. I am excited that the MBA program comes up with such fun topics and awesome books because I love this book. So I can't wait. I was so ecstatic. So tonight we have several presenters on tonight working together as a team to bring us together on why change. Why is change so important to you, especially in your career? So we have Dr. Lori Rosner on, we have Dr. Gina Moore, we have Professor Bethany, and we have one of our wonderful MBA students, Rosalie, on here. And she is going to give her output on it from a student standpoint, as well as what she's going to do in the program at this current time. If you have any questions, you will be able to click on the orange arrow at the top of your panel, and you'll be able to put messages in through questions, or you can put them in a chat box, and we will make sure those questions are read off for you as we go through this. But without further ado, I will be handing over the hostess wonderful position to the program director of the MBA program, and her name is Dr. Lori Rosner.
Thank you so much, Rashida, in hosting this event this evening. We are so grateful for us to be here, and we are excited also to bring this program to everyone. And with us, as you can see, we have a dynamo team here who loves cheese. uh, and we like to seek out new cheese. And tonight is going to be interactive. We're going to do a case scenario, and we're going to talk about how do we embrace change, why do we resist change, and what does that really mean? Because, we all are, humans, right? Who moved our cheese? Are we a mouse? Are we a human, right? So it's all on how we perceive things. And the old way, the new way, how does that all blend together? So tonight you're going to hear from all of us. And so we invite you to answer any, jump in with any questions that you have. And Rashida, how do they pop in to the questions? A little bit of housekeeping.
A little bit of housekeeping. When you see at the top of the box, the panel, you should see an arrow. The arrow is orange and white. Click on that box. Once you open it, you'll be able to drop down to the question part and put in your questions. Or if at any time you want to unmute yourself, you definitely can do that. But I will see whether you're doing something on your side and you need more help. So I am here to assist everyone as we go through the webinar tonight. And this should be fun. I love it. And we have other staff here that may have more to say for us. So we got this.
We got this. And we are excited, and we're going to all kind of chime in. This is a panel, and we are going to get started. So we are on the first screen here. So we're talking about why is change hard and why it matters. So we're going to have our MBA candidate, Rosalie, get started. Take it away.
Hi, everyone. So I am Rosalie Negron. I am an MBA candidate here at Bay Path. My journey started back in actually 2020 because I came here for a bachelor's. So I've been here for a little while. And actually, when it comes to change, it actually, for me personally, it's something that I seek all the time. I didn't start that way, but it started at home. My purpose are my children, my two boys who have autism. And when you have children who have autism, change and adaptability are of the essence. Professor Bethany is nodding her head as she knows. And it started with that. But that little seed that planted and started it all helped me to see the importance of running towards change, because I went back to work because I wanted to make sure that I can secure their future. I'm not going to be here forever. I wish I could live forever for them, because I really would. For them, I would. But that's what started it all. And then it's Path making it possible. I was working and I kept running into a few roadblocks when it came to just wanting to grow in leadership. My purpose is to try to make a huge difference in this world, starting with the autism community, because that's close to heart, but working with so many other people here at Path, my fellow peers. There's so many social causes. So I am ready to support them all, but I had to become really, really educated and learned all about leadership. And so I landed here at Path, thanks to a flyer that I received on Saturday, out of all days. And I reached out to admissions, and Ramona from admissions got me started. And then she handed me off to Rashida when I started to say, I think I want to know what this MBA stuff is about. So change is close to me, and you have to be adaptable. But Path helped me understand that being a life learner is the key to that, right? And with everything changing so much with technology and everything like that, I began to just seek more knowledge. And it just so happened to be that I jumped on the MBA program. I tried one class while I was still doing my bachelor's just to test it out. Dr. Rossner gave me the go. And I loved it. I loved every bit of it. And that's one of the main things that I continue to take from this program, is how adaptable it continues to make me. I actually seek change now. I want to run towards it. I want to know how to be better and better. I've learned that I don't have to be one thing, and with this program, that's possible. So I love change. Now I run towards it. If you let me, that's all I want to do.
I love that. What a way to kick off this evening, because why is change hard and why it doesn't matter? What causes us to um, cause action, right? Something has to be so painful that you're like, I can't stay in this spot any longer. So we're going to talk about framing the conversation with who moved my cheese. We're going to give a real life change of action. And we're going to do an interactive role play activity together. And we're also going to, yes, those that are watching, we're going to have an interactive practical lesson. So we're going to apply it. And we'll close it with a Q&A and some reflections. We love to reflect because that's how we learn best. And so thank you, Rosalie, for kicking us off.
Why is change hard?
Yes.
And why it matters. That's what we were just talking about, right? Even though it's like so hard, change is transition. It's going from one state to another. So we fear it because it means everything we know at the moment could possibly look differently, right? So we begin with that. It can happen in our work life. It can happen in our personal life, social life. Actually, change happens in every form, right? In every aspect of our lives. And it can be driven by different events. Like I said, having 2 diagnoses for 2 boys with autism just triggered everything that you see happening now, me being here, even being part of this webinar. And change can be planned or it can be reactive. And our response to it is what makes a difference, right? I think that's a lot that we learned with you, Dr. Rossner, when we were learning all about this book.
Yes.
The only thing that we can be sure of in life is that it's going to change.
Yes.
That's right. And it's especially important in today's world because it's
Mhm.
constantly changing.
And at
So
a faster rate than we've ever seen before, right? Things used to change every decade or so, and now they're changing every 6 months or so. And so, like, this webinar is especially relevant in this fast-moving, fast-paced times because you don't have as much time to adapt to change and to hem and haw over change as you did 5 years ago. And being able to know what state you're in and how to evolve to the next state of change is super important nowadays.
Definitely. I think the biggest thing, especially if you're going into a managerial or a leadership role, one of the biggest things about being in that position is you have to adapt to changes not only for yourself, but for the staff that you work with. And as someone that was a senior leader for a very long time, yes, the MBA program, when I did it, I learned a lot, but once you're actually in that position, is completely different. So being able to adapt and talk and do things and train and teach people what you need without coming off too critical, or, just making sure it's clear in the way you present is
Mhm.
something that we definitely need to always change because of AI, because of everything going on. And Rosalie can tell you, even from her starting with me, it was, all right, listen. And she was like, it sounds good. And I was like, well, if you need something else, let's talk about it. And so that's where you get that detail from me and creativeness and presenting stuff to you. So it definitely, in all levels, this book is a very helpful.
Rashida, you made some very important points that I want to highlight as the once you learning in the classroom, we all know learning in the classroom is different than the practical real life application, which one of the things that's really great about this program is that all of the teachers are practitioners. They're in the roles that so you have firsthand experience of not only the material that they're experts in, but asking how it really applies in the day to day and getting that valuable feedback. And that's
Correct.
not always the case. A lot of times you might be being taught by somebody who hasn't practiced in a while, and this program is
Yep.
not like
I
No, it's
love
not.
that.
Say that. No, I was
No.
going to say that. Everything I'm learning, I feel like the program has been built to give us the tools that we can apply into
Right.
everything happening today. I am facing so much change right now working retail and being a retail ops manager overseeing 17 stores. And I cannot tell you how much this program continues to give me an ROI on myself, to the
Mhm.
company and the things that I'm doing for the teams. I continue to apply it all the time, and adaptability has been one of the things that has been essential. I can go back to my tool belt and pull one of the tools that I probably learned 4 classes ago. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so useful at the moment. So yes,
Rashida,
very.
can you see Dr. Moore as a listener? She got kicked out.
One sec.
Sorry.
Thank you for letting me know.
I really like the word you just used, Rosalie, is adaptability, because we're an iterative state if we allow ourselves to be an iterative state, meaning that we embrace change for us to be able to take our knowledge to skill. And that's what you're talking about, because we want to take knowledge to skill. It's one thing having knowledge, but it's another when you can apply that knowledge. And like you said, we are practitioners. So, for example, Professor Bethany, Dr. Gina, and myself, we teach in the program. We're practitioners. We live this. Rashida lives this every single day. And Rosalie, you live it. And those that are watching, you live this every single day. So we need to take that knowledge to actually have a skill and apply it. So it goes to a state where it can enhance our tool belt, and that we can find new cheese, and that we are scanning the environment, which I think leads us to perfectly to the next topic, is the psychology behind the resistance.
Which is what I was talking about earlier. As when I remember getting my diagnosis for my youngest son, it was round 2, and a lot of people around me kind of expected me to just go with the swing of things. And I got to be honest, I'm human, right? So at first I was like, whoa, what does this mean? How do I go about this? The fear of the unknown became so real, you know? But then that followed me, right? As I thought I was putting pieces into place, like, okay, so I'll get the job, I'll work really hard. And then I started to kind of get, like, I perceived that I was lost, but it was because I didn't have all the tools that I needed to have the control of the situation. You know what I mean? So, like, I can see how I went through all of these things in those moments, the discomfort, the lack of understanding. What does his
Mhm.
autism look like compared to my older son? They're completely different. It's a spectrum, so they're literally completely two different people, as we all are, right? We're all individuals,
Correct.
which is unique. It's great. But it was the loss of like the routines that I had built, how it would look different from one child to another. I've experienced
Mhm.
all this. I think this is why change is hard. And I think that's one of the things this program gave me, the tools to understand what I could control. You know, like in the book, we look at our environment, we started to look at where we need to start moving towards, and it helped me look at change as opportunity. That's what I try to look at change now, to become adaptable. I'm like, where's the opportunities here?
Mhm.
Rosalie, I'm
And
gonna echo on that as somebody who also received an autism diagnosis for my child. And that change process of I have to adapt to the way I thought I was gonna raise them and the way I thought this was gonna go to what you can't predict the future. Are they going to be verbal? Are they going to be nonverbal? What is going to be their functional level? When you get these diagnoses, they're so little, you don't know. Even as they age, it's such an unknown. So that fear of the unknown um, is such a hard. It's a very sticky matter on change for anybody on any topic. Is that I knew what I thought was going to happen, and now that's gone. It's
Mhm.
that immediate like panic during the headlights. Like I thought the road was clear and now it's not, something's in the way. How do I get around it? What's the best way? Um, just that frozen moment. And I think that's really the hard part about change is that I knew exactly where I was going and that got derailed.
Agreed.
And
Agreed.
I think the hard part, and like it says here, it's there's a perception of we're losing something if it's going to
Mhm.
change. Something's going to be different, and we fear that we're losing something because of it. And as we go to be leaders and to lead change, I think there's a point on here that is ever so important, and that's people may have a lack of understanding of or what
Mhm.
their involvement is. And as leaders, we
Mhm.
really need to make sure that we're helping our people understand why the change, what it
Correct.
means to them, and help them move through these feelings that are normal human reactions.
Agreed.
Correct. And I definitely say a true testament of what this is as far as adaptability and also being creative in the way stuff was done. I love the way Dr. Rosner came into the program, transitioning from faculty into being the program director and saying, hey, I have an idea. And she sat down and she talked with me in detail. So before the changes happened, even though we had other stuff going on, I was able to get an understanding because she went through it with me, adapted, and gave me the same vision. And we were on the same page with it. But at the same time, that opened me up to trickle this down to multiple departments that I work with and still give all of our students that are interested in this program that look at it, and it's easier for me to catch something and just trickle it back and don't even have to bother her for certain things because of the creativity and the adaptability that she has given as a leader, and I love her for that. So thank you for that.
well, you know, when we stop being afraid, we start feeling good because we
Exactly.
collaborate,
Yep.
because we lean on each other, because we ask the questions, we're curious. And that helps the fear to kind of feel like you have more certainty, even though you could be in that really robust cycle of change. It's because you're not in it alone, you're collaborating and you're
Mhm.
collecting ideas, you're narrating. Part of my experience that I just keep leaning on and I've learned from is to narrate, story tell with others. What's going on? How is this impacting you? What, you know, is this what you're seeing? These affirmations and talking with a team actually allows the ideas to get bigger, not
Mhm.
smaller,
Sure.
Right.
and the ideas start meshing together and you can pilot things together, and then the change is not so fearful because it's not like you're out there isolated doing all this research and then coming in and nobody knowing about it and everybody asking tons of questions because they were not in the process, they didn't know, and then that fear like, oh no, what are we losing? So that's that uncomfortable, but
Mhm.
again, that may happen to us, but how do we react to that?
Mhm.
By still
Mhm.
staying curious and using the yes and
Yep.
philosophy, because that happens to us too. Sometimes we're not part of that detailed process, but
Correct.
that's okay, because maybe it was purpose for that reason, because they want new ideas and fresh viewpoints. And so then they're piloting. So it's
But I
not
would
putting
say
an arm out to resist, right? It's about bringing an arm in to join.
doesn't that
Definitely.
speak to the master's program in itself? As you guys being practitioners in the field and doing stuff, wouldn't you say that mindset as MBA as a program is being able to be broad in any industry, but take those leadership and managerial skills and present them and be comfortable with everything that you guys are teaching?
And the
Absolutely.
the mindset is actually a growth mindset. And I will use, Dr. Rosner, your very own phrase that is something that I will always remember is there is no growth in comfort and there is no comfort in growth. So when we're uncomfortable with some change, what I always try to do is step back and ask myself, why am I uncomfortable and what is it that I have to grow? Or how can I grow from this? Because there's something here to teach me something.
Mhm.
And the other mindset is that, we're building up each other. It's not one of the
Mhm.
most powerful images that I have from leadership and experience is a leader doesn't get to the top of the mountain and looked at everybody they stepped on the way up. They turn around and hold their hand to pull the next person up, right?
Yep.
So when you're doing change, you want to bring everybody into that. You want to be building something bigger, something greater, so we can all get to the top together, not forcing it top down and pushing people over to get your way. That's not what this is about.
When we listen to people, sometimes we end up discovering that in that fear, there's a lot of value. There could be a lot of value as to why they're in doubt, as to why should we make this change, you know? So
Mhm.
I think that's part of the process, right? The listening and being present and open, like Dr. Rossner said, that creates the environment for ideas to start to flourish. So
Mhm.
All right,
Which I think
Bethany, tell us about the book a little bit.
So this is one of my favorite books. If anybody has not read this book, it's a very short read. It it is a wonderful story. It's a story. It actually reminds me more of like a fable I would read. I have a 5-year-old daughter. I would probably could read her the story and she would follow along and she would love it. Very, very fun, very easy to follow, characters that you fall in love with. Um, and it's, kind of like the tortoise and the hare. There's characters you love and characters you love to hate. So we're gonna learn about those characters tonight. We have Sniff, who is kind of the first of the ones to realize that something new is around. He's always looking for the next kind of hint of what's in the air. Scurry is always ready to run towards the next idea, to bolt to the fastest, shiniest, newest thing. We have Hem, who holds back and is a little bit more like, I like what we were doing, what was working. I like what the industry has proven successful. I like what has given us money before. And Ha is kind of like, meh, I don't know, maybe not, depends. But in this story, they're all running through a maze, and each of these characters has um, benefits and cons to what they're doing, and we learn about how they navigate looking for their cheese. And in this instance, cheese is the cash cow. Cheese is the next best thing. Cheese is what's going to keep them profitable. And you talk about how you start noticing cheese dwindling, or cheese starts to smell bad because it's been sitting out for too long. And we'll go into that as we dive into the story, or our own real life story of the MBA transitioning to the, I give a sneak peek, transitioning to the MBA plus C, and how that played out, and how each of us kind of had our own little role in that real life case study. We'll talk about our experience through that transition process through the lens of this book. So
so. Let's talk.
yeah.
Go
Does
ahead.
anyone tell us the story of how MBA became MBA plus C?
Yeah. So I was sniffing it out. And really, it's about, we know when change is kind of happening, right? If we really are honest with ourselves, we're like, yeah, something's in the air. I'm starting to see some writing on the wall, and the environment and education is changing. And when I was the chair of undergraduate business, we created the very first Coursera accredited course in the country. The skill sets, the credentials, micro credentials, people going into education wanting to be able to not have to wait until they graduate to actually skill up, and how to do this. So, we could kind of sniff out that there was some things going on. And as teaching in the MBA program, as I became program director and talking with collaborators, like you see right here in the panel, also talking with industry leaders that are hiring, looking for skill sets, jobs, the next up and comer, and also faculty, because the faculty are practitioners. And what are we seeing in the environment? Also advisors that we have. So listening and learning, macro, micro, internally, externally, what are the trends? And so thinking, if we do trad to grad, right? Why can't we do grad to credential? So what would that look like though? And what would the credential? What's in the environment? How does it align to our mission, right? Is really student focused, like Rashida was just talking about. How does this align? And what are the opportunities? And what does this model look like? How easy is this going to be for the students to be able to transition? Can it be something where it's just a credential without an MBA? Is an MBA plus credential? Well, can I get another credential on that? So this was all about trends, looking at the scanning the possibility. Also identifying there's a sense of urgency, because if I'm already seeing that in the traditional model, the graduate model, right? You're in it. This is work environment. You are there, and things are very fast. We're post COVID. And how we work. Look at us. We're on Zoom right here, right? We'd be on campus. So things have evolved and things are rapidly changing. We're doing more with less. We have more hats for each one of us. We have more varieties of cheese coming our way. And what does that mean? So I collaborated with all of these stakeholders, internal, externally, which I am so grateful, because collectively, like Rashida said, we created a program that is going to be able to have individuals create change quickly for themselves, meaning being able to take that knowledge to skills quickly. Also, the program is an applied program anyways. It's a wonderful program that you are applying the skills, just like Rosalie was talking about earlier, and how Dr. Gina and Professor Bethany talking about how they flip the classroom, applying it and going and learning this. So what would the credentials look like? How would that work? So we piloted, we tested it out. We held meetings and looking for poking holes, welcoming comments and saying, well, what about this? What about that? Well, yes, and having and embracing and being comfortable that someone says, that baby looks a little ugly right here. Because nobody ever wants to say you have an ugly baby. And I'm like, it's okay. It's ugly right here, but we can make it pretty. So we collaborated and we actually built something, because we're also integrating with Cambridge College. And what a wonderful opportunity that Cambridge College has additional credentials, additional graduate programs. How could we bring this and bring more to others and individuals across internationally, locally, Puerto Rico, online, and in Boston, all of these. How does this work? And so we came up when we evaluated, we launched it, and we've been measuring it, and it just launched September 2nd.
September 2nd.
And 100% of students that were in the prior program, 100% of them have come over to the new program. This is just a testament of the teamwork of everyone and students, like Rosalie was talking about. We're hungry. We're hungry to learn more. And change is something that to embrace and adapt, because if we don't, our cheese, is going to smell. And also, another important fact, if we take our sneakers off, that means we're just taking things for granted. We're coasting and we're like, well, I'm comfortable where I am. Today, we cannot be comfortable. My goal is I walk in every single day as if it's my first day.
Yep.
Yes, I have collective knowledge, but it's my first day, because you know what? Nobody wants somebody on the team that is not hungry or saying, hey, what about this? Oh, are you noticing this? And being able to point things out so we can get better. I mean, Rashida was like, well, what about this? What about this? I'm like, that's great. Even Rosalie, the feedback, Professor Bethany, Dr. Gina, and all the faculty and business owners, even Board of Trustees got involved. It was really a full scale. But I had it, my job was thinking long-term, results-oriented, and sniff it out as the innovator. So that's my role. That's sniff the innovator.
I think one of the biggest things I ever learned when I first started college, I worked for a physical therapy firm, and the best thing that person ever told me was never come too comfortable in your position. Always do something to make yourself um uh, not to become invaluable. And I was like, what do you mean? 18-year-old, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm like, tell me more. And so I think I love, for me, my background, from me going from one master's program to my last year and then deciding to go and get my MBA. It's like, I think it's just easy for me to talk about the MBA program with us. And I like the clarity of how it's set. So it's something that's very comfortable, and Rosalie can tell you, it just comes out of me easily. So it's just like, it works, but at the same time, I always, like you say, I try to come in every day and be open to something new. And I think Dr. Rosner can tell you all the time, okay, Rashida, this is what we're doing. Okay, tell me where I need to do. What do you want me to add to it?
It reminds me of Patrick Lachoni has the ideal team player, where you want to be hungry, humble, and kind. You always want to be looking for the next thing, humble to learn it, and just kind and gracious to everybody who's learning it with you. I want to really, while we hop into this interactive role play, Dr. Lori, I think we're doing a little bit of disservice to our listeners because we forgot to mention what the MBA was and now what MBA Plus is. And I think as you sniff it out, we're gonna hop into character now. As for the next part of it, we're all gonna hop into our characters. So you can look at the screen and you'll see everybody. But I'm Hem, so I am the least likely to accept change. So in my answers as we go through this, I will be in that persona. And does everybody else want to introduce their personas?
And may I add one thing, if I could, Professor Bethany, because as Hem the stabilizer, so you are slower paced, structured approach, want the time to think it through. So even though it's Hem likes to go a little bit slower, likes to have that structured approach, and the stabilizer, but it could appear that you're very resistant to change, but maybe that's not the case. Maybe it's just how you are wired.
And as we go through this also, we all have our default, right? But we need to be able to wear all four hats at different times. So I want you to think about your default, think about what you wish was your default, and kind of think how more you can get to that middle ground as we do this.
Or
Yes,
how
and
we
as
do it, right? When we're going through the process of change. Sorry.
yeah, no, that's okay. And as we do this, start thinking about something that might be going on in your life that might be driving a change, and start thinking about which reaction, which character you actually might be representing.
Perfect.
I think that's excellent. So are you HEM, the stabilizer, slower pace structure approach like Professor Bethany, or like Dr. Gina, the HA, the unifier, process-oriented, unstructured approach, hesitant at first, but remains, kind of adaptive, but maybe change isn't so bad after all.
When you told us
And
when you told us about this MBA plus C program, perhaps as HA, I stood back and said, well, I'm not sure. Will that work? At first I had a little bit of like, I'm not sure. I have to think about it. But then I said, maybe it's not so bad.
yeah. And then Rosalie, MBA candidate, is Scurry, the producer, more shorter term, faster pace, wanting to go really quick, faster pace, changes here, let's move, quickly adapts and takes action.
Yes, that is for sure. The minute you brought me in just to get some feedback from me of what I thought, what did I say to you? When do we start? Can we
It was
start?
a year ago. It was a year ago. Can you imagine that?
Oh, I know. And I was like, when can we start? I want this to be a part of me. I want to graduate with this under my belt. I kept saying that to her. Like, I just wanted it. As soon as she laid it out, I was like, wait, I can be more than one thing. I can actually go for that, what I'm going for, and stack elements. Okay, I can do this. So I think I'm very much like Scurry. Yes, I have my ha and hem moments, even my Smith, because I do tend to be trying to look for change. But I do tend to run towards change. Like, that's the opportunity, let's do it. So when it came to this, I was like, sign me up. How soon? I want to graduate with this. Please, Dr. Rosner, make it happen. And you did.
So as you think about, we all have our own behaviors, right? We all each have our own behaviors. And sometimes we have to warm up to things. We want to think about it. Sometimes we're like, what is the reward shorter? What do I have to do? Wait a whole year? And more structure, less structure. It really depends on how we view the world and our style. And I think as leaders, it's important for us to know that about our team, because one, you could be moving a little bit too quick. You could be living a little bit too slow, but it's just making sure that everybody understands the why. Why are we changing?
I think back to the day you invited me, we had lunch together and we went and we sat in an empty room and you're like, I want to show you something. And then you presented to me what is now has become the MBA plus C. And I came in with my own set of assumptions and my own set of, the tools that I had learned in my MBA program, putting them into the market, and came presenting. And when you first presented to me, I had a whole set of ideas of the market is getting smaller, like people are shortening courses, shortening weeks, and you are presenting something that added more time, more certifications. And I was like, I don't know that's what students are looking for. And so I was him in that role. And what I love is that you were able to really bring me along and show me the value. And so I just want to talk to like the value of the certifications as a stack up and stack back, even though it seems like it's adding more because they're micro credentials, and why that's a value.
For me in my industry, things were moving so fast and changing when she first talked to me about this that I was like, I'm gonna need more. Everything's changing so fast. I feel like every platform we use is being updated by like the day now, not even like on a quarterly or every month. It's like You come in and there's a new tool, and you have to be ready to adapt and help your teams adapt to these changes, you know? So for me, I think it was that she came to me at a time that I was like living in change. And it's even faster, the pace right now. It's just not slowed down. So that continued to show me like I need to seek more learnings and ensure that I have my tool belt as strong as I can so I can continue to adapt for the people. So
Yeah. And I remember, Professor Bethany, when you said that, and it was a matter of, oh no, this is within the core program. So it doesn't add more time. It is actually 7 core courses and 3 courses that make up the credential. And students were like, you know what? I need to learn about um, quality systems and improvement management. I'm going to start doing an operations job. Do you have anything there? Or like, well, 3 more courses you could add to that and get a certification in that. And you can start getting 1 course now. And you can move at your own pace as well. You want to go quicker, you want to go slower, but you can talk to your supervisor and say, well, I'm already in an MBA program and I'm getting this credential right now. I'll have that credential before I even finish my MBA. That is having a roadmap to knowledge to skill set to a goal immediately. And that creates a faster pace, but within an MBA journey. And you can, add more, you can do less. And so I think that when change occurs, how do you look at it from all different angles? Look at it upside down. Look at it. It's like creating let's just say you're an entrepreneur and you're going to be a manufacturer where you create beds. Well, the best thing to do is take that bed and nail it to the ceiling and say, how comfortable would that be for your customer? Or what is the worst and most uncomfortable bed we could possibly make for a customer? Right now, you're probably thinking, oh, let's put nails on it. Oh, let's make sure there's wire mesh. Let's make sure that it's scratchy and uncomfortable, right? But those are all the things that help us embrace change, because then we can look at the flip side and say, what's the reverse of that? Reverse engineering. And also proximity. You want to be around individuals that are looking at improving themselves in a certain field, because then you can connect with others in that field. Because if you're looking at that certification, you're going into that field and you're working with proximity of others very quickly and networking. So that's extremely valuable. But yeah, crazy of how change is.
And as speaking as a parent and anybody who's ever been exposed to new math, we're wired to think the way we always did things is the best way to do them, right? But what we were taught is the absolute best way. So like when I did the MBA program, it was not MBA plus C, and so I'm wired to naturally think that was naturally the best way. And what really had to happen for me to come out of that mindset was I had to be brought into the light, into the new, see the why and the value. Can you speak to how somebody trying to project change maybe up the ladder would bring that conversation to a not a hem at the top of the ladder?
That's a great question, because there's 2 questions we need to answer when we're collaborating with anybody, and it doesn't matter what position they're in. They're going to want to know the why, like we just said, and what.
Yep.
So there are why people, there are what people. So why are we doing this? You answer the why, that creates the meaning, the purpose, the alignment. It makes sense. But if you don't answer the what behind it, then how is that aligning to the strategic goals? How is that aligning with the outcome? Who is this going to impact? Is there processes in place in order for this to be facilitated? What type of technology or changes do we need to do with the register system? How does this impact admissions? How does this impact advising? How does this impact how the information is inputted into the system of student impact? How does this impact financial aid? All of these things are impacted. So I think earlier the better. Bring everybody in early, early, early. So when this idea just hit me, I immediately went and I started asking questions and digging, and that included not only my supervisor, but my supervisor's supervisor, the team, as you know, all of the individuals that are going to be impacted, because we can't have unintended consequences. Unintended consequences is forgetting somebody that is an integral part of being part of the process. And this is a people process and collaboration. We don't do anything today. We have to collaborate. In fact, we need to be even over communicated, because it's going to impact so many, because technology is getting more sophisticated. It impacts business and it's faster. So bringing the team in very, very early, scoping it out, because also, it also, you know, if your supervisor is your supervisor a hem or scurry, like, give me that information quicker, or I need to have, you know, this, or what do you, you know, well, do we really need to make that change? Right. So it's having others see the vision and be part of it, because when you bring other people in and have them share, they become owners. They become owners of the idea. And collectively, we are all owners of this idea because we birthed it together, getting people involved earlier and having them see the possibility by storying it. Because I spoke to students, I talked to admissions, I talked to employers.
And
That
Lori,
determines.
and Dr. Lori, I think I will make a plug here, but you mentioned so many wonderful points that I think these are some of the things, if you were to join the MBA program at Bay Path, you would learn a lot of wonderful frameworks on how to deal with change, how to implement change, the different frameworks to use, on how to help bring others along. So I just have to add that little plug in there that we teach some courses on how to help you do that.
Yeah, I forget about that. We just go to these models so frequently and without even thinking. And we're sitting here going, all those methodologies, frameworks, theories to practice being an applied program that you just automatically go to your tool belt. But these are things that become just like how you breathe. It just becomes a norm. And it also makes change not so scary. Fear is our biggest enemy. We create stories in our head and we make things much bigger than they really are. And then we go, oh, why didn't I just do that earlier? Was I so resistant? I lost out on this. Why didn't I do that quicker? You know, it's like if you're going to go and, you know, you have poor eyesight and you hem and haw about it for 6, 7, 8 months. And 2 years later, you finally have eye surgery and you're like, what took me so long? I can see now, right? So it's all about seeing the vision and seeing the journey, but also pathing the journey for others to be able to see and get excited about and to be involved in the possibilities. It's not about us. It's not about me. It is about the journey along the way with people. And you know what? It doesn't have to be perfect. We're already thinking about some of the things that would be, you know, could be enhanced or modified. You're like, what is she talking about? She hasn't said this before.
Beyond that, not only does it not have to be perfect, you have to accept that it's not going to be perfect, and that's okay, right? Don't wait for perfection. If it's a lot of the reason why hems are hem is because they feel like what they have finally got to perfection, but we never get perfection. And if you're so stuck on being perfect that you don't act, then you will. In the story, Hem starves alone in a corner because he never goes to the new cheese. His cheese is all gone. He sulks, he misses his cheese, he thinks about his cheese, he's fond of his cheese, but he never gets the new cheese. Everybody else eventually gets there and they're enjoying and they're happy and they're engaging with each other. And so, you know, there's the fear of missing out and the going too quick before anything's proven any history. And then there's the fear of change to the point where you freeze and you don't do anything. And you want to be somewhere in that happy middle as a leader and as an innovator.
And what you see on the screen is a worksheet that we created. So if anybody wants to, print this out, use this in your day-to-day, kind of assess change, you're very welcome to do that. And we also want to take a pause and see if anybody wants to talk through a change that may be going on in their own lives, whether that's personal or professional, and see how these characters might play out.
Rosalia, while we're waiting for anybody to come in, I know this has my brain thinking,
Yes.
and I have a teenager. How awesome would it bring this stuff to our families now, so that when they get out into that career world, they already have that? I'm thinking of like, how can I apply this beyond my professional life? How can I apply this and just, trying to bring a change innovation to my husband for something for our family, and introducing these characters and making it an open conversation. You don't have to apply, you don't have to be in a position of leadership or power to use these frameworks. And you shouldn't wait until you are, because then you'll be behind, where if you make it part of your day and your routine and part of your life, it just comes naturally when you get there.
I agree.
Yeah, and this book is perfect to use because the characters are so fun and relatable to different things. So I think this is a perfect book to talk to your teenagers about and help them understand and play out these characters and help them see, why certain people react the way they do.
I would say from when I was a counselor, the biggest thing, I think this book was fun to do, just because it was something, one, as a counseling manager, I had to talk to my staff with, but also working with youth, and the framework of how I would present different things to them, whether it was us doing anger management or planning for goals, short-term goals, smart-term goals, smart goals for them to use. It was always something eclectic in a way, and I was always different. So like you ladies, it was interesting. I came up with a fun night at the school that I worked with, because they were in the school 24/7. So the interesting thing about that was they were like, how can you make a normal assembly fun? I said, oh, I will. Give me the power to do it. And so my boss was like, she's gonna do it. And I was like, I'm gonna do it. And I had the gym filled, and I had managers that were sitting next to me, like, and they were the him and the ha, and they were like, I don't see it working. And so when everyone came in, it was a hot show at that time that was out, and it's still out. And I started doing one of the songs that's always in there. Everyone stood up and they started screaming, and they're like, okay. And my boss is on the side and he sniffed and he's like, I told you this was gonna work. And we literally went overtime, so they were late to go to bed because of it. And it was like all I had was a dream in my head of something fun to make it more entertaining for young people, to not be so bored all the time. So it's like, I think I always try to come up with something creative. So I tend to play all four of these roles. If it's boring to me, it's definitely going to be boring to someone else. So let me see how I can change it. And I definitely think you ladies will say, from the two of you that work with the students, registering them with classes, I think the transition of what made it so easy is because I had the information before we actually officially laid it out, but I was talking to students last year about this. And so that transitioned them up for the last 2 semesters before. So they knew what they were getting. So when they sat down with these wonderful ladies, they were able to say, I'm ready. Let's do it. Matter of fact, add 3 more courses for me.
Mhm.
Well, that goes to, that's why that 100%, right? It's bringing people in early
Yeah.
and charting the path for change and having that knowing that it's coming and being part of that and being excited about it because life's too short. We need to have fun, and in the program we talk about Eeyore or Tigger. And I always, we have a class MBA 651 was high performance management strategies, and I'm teaching right now. And we talk about Randy Pausch as a very inspiring, sad, introspective framework model. And you want to go through life. Are you a Tigger and going to try new things and try new foods or new places, a new place to walk, a new place to bike, a new place to jog? Or are you having enough water every single day? Because your brain needs water to function. These are things that as leaders, we just kind of take for granted, but you know, we need to have some fun. And that's part of, you can see even here, of the characters. And this is what makes the change fun too, is because we get to enjoy the cheese together and eat it together. And it's okay if it's a little stale, at least we're eating the cheese together.
That's right.
We didn't talk about one thing I want to touch base before is like we all have seen the true hems in the world. We've seen the ones that will die on the hill. We can name them. We got Blockbuster, we got Kodak, we got people who are refuse to see that their product may not be the newest and the best. And if in a lot of ways, I do default to him. I need a proven history a lot of times. And I have to work myself out of that default mode to be ready to try and to jump. And I think it is a natural human. We don't want to give up our recesses. We're hunters and gatherers, right? We're supposed to go out, find stuff, put it in our cave, and keep it hidden for us alone, and believe that ours is the best and nobody else is good, right? But we have to break through that instinct and start looking for Dr. Rosner and her wonderful ideas and seek out her input and feedback, and then seek out Rosalie and find out why this is valuable to her as a student and why this is valuable to the university as a growth program. And you got to be able to adapt your role and your default to be successful, because at some time, on some instance, we will all be a hem, and sometimes we'll all be a scurry. And knowing when you are a hem is what's going to let you evolve. If you're not aware of it, then you're not able to take those decisive information. And if you would go back in time and ask Blockbuster if they would have bought Redbox, I think things would probably be very different. Now we all know Redbox is also no longer. So the world is changing so fast that we're going to get more and more of these examples, because people are going to take longer to adapt, and we don't want to be stuck there.
I think that you bring up a really good point that we can agree to disagree, but we can't be disagreeable.
Right. Absolutely.
And I just want to add that, like, for me, through being a student of BayPath for, almost 5 years now, it was easy to, go through the sniff. And then I went through my hem, and then I talked to my husband about what if I go to school at a time that I said I wasn't going to be going to school. That's going to change some things. But I got a very good supportive system, number one, but not just at home, in the community I have in BayPath. That's why it was also so easy for me to run towards it, because I knew that I was going to continue to have my strong support system, the strong community that I have here at BayPath, from my peers to my professors to my advisors. I can still reach out to Rashida if I need her, and she'll literally there for me. And I know that so just knowing those things made me feel like I can run towards the change. You know what I mean? I can do this. And being able to stack up was essentially like, it feels now like such a great thing to do because it's taking my concentration and I'm still learning all my core things and I'm still walking away with a great MBA, but I'm also extending on that because of my stack up. I went with the organizational leadership and negotiation, so I think that it's just going to expand on what I'm doing right now and my plans to continue to grow. So yeah, I think that was a big one that I wanted to just make sure I mentioned was that it was easy to run towards change because I've experienced already the great community and great support we have here, and I knew I could do it. So
I like that you talked about the community from the
Question.
MBA,
Mhm.
because a lot of times I'm a current doctoral candidate in the Bay Path program, and as an online student myself, you hear, I could never do online. I need the people. And another great thing about this program is you don't feel like you're distant. You feel like you're right there. Speaking from my own experience in the MBA program, I went through 3 classes with a fellow student, and we were talking together all the time. And the 3rd class in, we finally figured out to ask like where each other lives, and we were 15 minutes away from each other. But we were so close the whole time that we never like. So you're not closed off. You're not like online and just talking to words on a screen. You're talking to each other and your peers, and you're connecting and you're networking for future career opportunities, and you're meeting people who are working in the fields. That's like value. You pay a lot of money to go to network events, and you're getting it for free as part of your certification and your MBA. Like that value is, can't talk it down.
Well, we do have a few questions. So, one question would be, what are some strategies for recognizing when our cheese has to move before it's late? Mm, who wants this one?
Well, I think if you're comfortable, the cheese has moved.
Yeah.
I think that do something every single day that makes you uncomfortable. And you know, nobody can really, say we need to find new cheese. We know.
Mhm.
And we'll wake up one day and say, today's the day. I'm
Mhm.
searching for new cheese. And that is why individuals are in the MBA program. They woke up one morning and said, you know what? I need to not become extinct.
Yep.
I need to be I need to be distinct. I
And if
need to be me.
we're going to go back to the book, it gives some tips. If you read the book, it gives some great tips about how to tell, but it says like smell your cheese often, right? So you're going to smell your cheese often to see what competitors in the industry are doing. You're going to see what might be coming that could be an alternative to your product, but you need to be aware and on top of the industry. And that should be part of your daily routine, whether it's checking a competitor's website just for 15 minutes to see, or doing a quick search to see what is the latest and greatest in my field. But you can't wait to find out you're behind. You have to be constantly learning and innovating. Something you could do would be take a certification that could help your field. Like AI, everybody knows AI is going to change every customer service role going forward. And if you have a job that needs customer service, you should be learning AI right now and about it and how to use it. So smelling your cheese is the way to know.
I would also add to that, just like Dr. Lori said, if you're comfortable, then try to think about what is your next step in terms of growth. And there's something called continuous improvement. So think about, everything is good, but there's always an opportunity to make something a little bit better. So just think about it, whether it be personally or professionally. If you're comfortable, think about how you could make something around you a little bit better.
Or think about where your customers might be uncomfortable, like what part of the process might be a friction point for them. How can you get a little bit better there? What can you do? Like Amazon with returns, they figured out that nobody wanted to rebox and reship out. So now you can go to Whole Foods or UPS or Kohl's or a myriad of other places and drop your returns that you might already be visiting. They found that friction point for their customer and they iterated. So think of what's a friction point and how you can improve that.
Yeah, your friction point, your customer friction point, because students would graduate and they would say to me, you don't have anything else for me? I'm a lifetime learner. Can I come back? Do I have, like, what else can I do?
Right.
It's not like a one and done because we're an iterative process. The workforce and the demands are so rapid. And like the book says, monitor change. Look at job descriptions of what you do. Is there something new that they're looking for that you may say, oh, I didn't know that, or your bosses boss. Just be curious. I think that curiosity, like a child, we always like very curious. And as we get older, we get a little bit more safer and that's, like, oh, uncertainty. And also each one of us has a different level. I won't go into that. You'll have to come to class for that. But the second one is adapt to change quickly. And the third one is enjoy the change, enjoy it, because the change is where you get to find and try new cheese that you may not have tasted before.
It's true.
And even if you didn't like the cheese that you tried, enjoy it because you learned something, right?
Correct.
So I've tried lots of cheese I didn't like, but now I know what I do and I know how to make it and different things. So you're not always gonna find the correct new cheese the first time you run in the maze. You're gonna get lost, you're gonna wander, but every way you're gonna cross off a way don't go, in a way this is faster or this is smoother or this one smells better. You're gonna get better at finding the cheese faster the more mistakes you make. So don't be afraid to make them.
Okay, and the next question that I have two more. What can help? What can we do to help a team member who's like him and resist change?
I think it's having those conversations that we were talking about earlier, asking what the fear is and trying to understand where they're standing at. I think that's very important. Sometimes we have to stand in their place and understand how it's going to impact the change for them and begin with that. I think that for me personally, leading with retail field teams, it always comes down to that, just taking that time to just listen to the person, understand where the fear is at, and then start addressing, well, let's work on this. And then bringing that person to the table because there's value in the fear they have. I guarantee you I can find an operational concern in there that I can attach to something that I can make better and start driving the change. So they become part of the change.
And I love it.
And there should be, there's fear in not changing.
Right.
So the fear is bigger of not adapting quick enough to the change. And somebody is changing the rules. And if we don't look at how the rules are changing, or what got you here doesn't necessarily mean is going to get you to where you need to go tomorrow. Just because you've been successful in your career doesn't mean that you'll be successful tomorrow. Because just like we teach in Good to Great, you have to keep doing that cogwheel every single day and being curious and having these iterative movements and iterative change. And when someone says that, it's okay. Well, what if we don't do this? So it's the flip side of that coin. And we have model, yeah.
I like that. What if we don't do this? As someone who does lean towards him, I really like it. Helps me the phase facts are your friends. So really bringing up facts about what has happened to places who don't change, or a lot of times with change process, I've found that you get a lot of I feel, I think, this might, this could, and we really need to come from a place of this will, it's proven, we have, this this is the future, not this could be or this might be, or like, so really clarifying the vision and the fact around of what causing the vision to have to change is really helpful for me as a natural hem to be like, okay, I see what you're saying, I'm going to try it.
Mm-hmm.
Especially you're a high star. I mean, obviously you're here watching this evening, right? So you're already a high performer. You're already in the arena of that curiosity lifetime learner. So you're here or you're watching this later. So
Mm-hmm.
it is really about already being a star performer and then asking a star performer that goes to the Olympics to change. Like, why do I need to change? My routine, my practice, I'm hitting it. I'm getting tens. Why are you telling me? Because maybe the change tomorrow is something that you need to jump further than what you
Mm-hmm.
had to go. You had to go a longer mile. You had to go a longer distance because someone else just broke the record.
Yep.
And so now they want more. Well, that means the routine has to change, the practice has to change, and the rules have changed. So, the 1 minute mile, right? Look how long that took before it was broken. So it's we even when we're at our apex, tomorrow could be a different road for us.
And I love that. Because you bring up the example of running. So, just to give you an idea of how much I run every day at least 7 miles. So, on my lunch break, I will run from Longmeadow, from our campus, all the way into infield and back in under an hour. And so when I started running, because I was out for a while and I couldn't do anything, and so building that back up, like you said, you get like a runner's high. So you get comfortable, but at the same time, if you stay stagnant in it, you won't change and you'll just become dull or bored with it. So when I first started, it was like, oh, I'll just go 2 miles. And then by the next month, I was up to 5 miles. And then the month after that, I was up to 10 miles. And it was like, okay, you're back on your flow. Well, now I need something else. Let me go lift weights for 30 minutes and run for 30 minutes. So now I'm doing that. And I definitely think if you don't push yourself, that fear will control you. And that can be health wise, that can be within growing within your own learning, that can be growing within your own growth within your own job. So, and I think me as an admissions person that works with you, Rosalie can tell you, I'll sit and I'll say, this is all about you. Tell me, what are your goals? What are you looking to do? But what they're telling me, it's also transitioning into my brain. Okay, well, this is why this program will help them. Let me tell them about that. That sounds like a fear, but I can change it, or that sounds easy. Let's talk about it. And we'll discuss it. And I do follow ups. So even if I know someone's hesitant or something, I still follow up with them to make sure that they're comfortable. And then if I need more support, I'll pull in the program director and I'll say, hey, maybe we can meet. And just like that, that shows what we bring as a campus to our students. Whether you're online, whether you're on campus, we make time for you, we support you, and we hear what you guys want going in to stuff. How can I change in my career and how can I become better? So that leaves us with the last question. How can leaders create a culture that embraces change rather than fear?
I can start that one by saying it's important as a leader to include your workers within decision making and coming up with creative ideas. So you don't want to create fear in people where they're afraid to share their ideas, because you're going to get more ideas and more, options the more people you include. The more diverse your discussions are, the more diverse your opinions are and thoughts, you're going to get greater options and greater outcomes. So I think it's important to not just instill fear in the environment and to let people share their feedback and to bring them in and ask them, like Dr. Lori said, this was piloted. She talked to students like Rosalie to see what that meant to her and how she would feel about it. You've got to do the same with your employees.
I think we need to celebrate try.
Mhm.
Um, so it it's a lot of times we see, oh, somebody did something really good and that gets celebrated. And Rosalie, she did an A+ on this paper. Let's talk about her. And but we don't talk about the Dr. Moore tried this innovative new process at work. It wasn't quite right, but from that we learned,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
We villainize failure like a bad thing, instead of rewarding the try. And so I think the more leaders can reward that try and that try mindset, the more their people are going to be comfortable trying and know that they're not going to be villainized for the failure if and when it happens, because we all fail. We're all going to fail. We're human. And so again, the more we can accept failure as just a part of growth instead of a step back, the better your organization will be at change.
I think creating a environment that shows welcoming
Mhm.
to being able to put your viewpoint out, but also give feedback that may not be the best in the person receiving it. So you have to have a comfortable culture that's welcoming with your staff, but also be able, I have an open door policy. Come talk to me anytime you need me.
I agree with that. That works 100% for me. Just keeping the communication really open and honest,
Hmm.
being authentic, just saying when I have to take this one back. I got to work a little more on this one. I recognize where we're at. I recognize how you're feeling about this. That I think is so valuable. And I agree with Professor Becker. I think we need more of just saying what did we learn from it rather than saying this was a complete failure. I think that especially when that comes from your executive or your C-suite, that hurts your teams. They really take that to heart, you know. So instead of saying, well, that happened, but we learned this from it and we're thankful for that. How do we move forward? How do we make things better? It's changing the narrative so that people
Hmm.
stop so afraid to just speak up and say what they're feeling because there's value in it. So
And I
Yeah.
guess I can take us back to where we started, but it's the why we're changing and the what, and making sure we're helping our teams understand that.
yes.
Hmm.
So there we can go to the how. And it's important that they understand those two before we move to the how. So
Yep.
Yes.
mhm.
Yep, absolutely.
I love it. All right, well, let's close this out. Any closing reflections and takeaways that we should be talking about, Dr. Lori?
I would say go and lead by example, because you are here, you're watching, and people are watching you. And the wonderful thing is leading by example creates opportunities for you. You don't need a badge with a title. You have your own pocket of greatness of what you're doing. You're hungry to learn and keep learning, keep being curious, uh, and keep sniffing things out.
Mm-hmm.
I
Most
would
Learn.
say don't wait for a change process to come to you to dig this book out to figure out how to do it. Find ways to include it early and often, and just become comfortable with your character and the other characters. And if you wait until the right moment to use any of the frameworks that you've learned in life in general, you're not gonna be fluent. You're not gonna be great at it. You need to try it, and you need to fail, and you need to learn and grow to be an expert when the right time comes.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely. I definitely would say being comfortable is letting that cheese slip away. So always look for something new, like they're saying, sniff. Even if it's intriguing to sit online, I like watching the History Channel. So learning something that typically, oh, all right. Like, I don't know if you guys remember when you were younger ever doing the whole United States map. And like now, can people still put that whole map together and actually put it correctly and write it out without seeing the names of all the states? No. And so it's something like just that simple. Educating yourself. It may take 5 minutes a day. Hey, okay, I did this today. Reflect over your day and say, how could I do that better? And so I think for Lori and I, when we go back and forth, I may share stuff with her and it's in detail, but it's just like, okay, this is me and you, because we have so many things going on with this MBA program that it makes sense for us to have these great details. And so when it's like, hey, you haven't sent it yet. Yep, I'm still busy and I'm working some other things, but it is coming. So be comfortable with change, but also be comfortable to tell if you need help as well.
Mhm.
I think that's part of our success is sometimes we are afraid to ask questions or we don't want to look silly. We don't want to feel right in front of somebody, but actually putting that guard down and just being a learning lifetime individual, it's your name.
Mhm.
You represent you and how you think and how you perform. It's not about how others are performing. This is about how you're leading by example and having others to be inspired to want to be with you versus you having the title and they have to follow you. This is about getting people to want to follow you because you're helping them achieve their goals and purpose in life. And that resonates with people when you're willing to fail forward and you're okay with that. And this is a place where we foster that. And this is an applied program. So we want to be able to practice, learn the knowledge, the skill, and have fun doing it at the same time.
Agreed. That's been my experience. I can't say it enough. I continue to sign up for the next class and the next class because it's been so much fun to like learn and be part of something that is the Bay Path community. I always say like my bachelor's helped me find my voice, but I feel like my MBA is actually giving purpose to my voice. And I feel like I can speak and I have value in what I'm saying. And I feel like I continue to discover that through this journey. So yes. Join, just join.
Thank you. Thank you.
So if any of you watching this video have any questions, contact me directly about the admissions process and also questions about the program. But if you want more insight on the program, you can also reach out to Dr. Lori and I have her contact information and we will definitely be in talk. So even if you reach out to me, you're still gonna probably hear from her as well because we work very closely together. Or she'll say, hey, Rashida, can you reach out to this person? Most definitely. And that's usually within an hour. So I type myself on making sure my programs are very comfortable in their program directors. So we keep an open communication. Even the professors reach out if they need something. I'm always there. So I say if you want more information on the MBA Plus program, please schedule an appointment and also join our open house, virtual open house tomorrow night. If you have more questions about the admission side, we'll be on.
Thank you so much, Rashida, for hosting us this evening. Thank you, Rosalie, Dr. Gina, Professor Bethany, rock stars, and so thankful to be part of the journey with all of you. Go and continue to be great.
Yes.